If you've been making charitable donations in retirement, there is a good chance that you have been doing it the hard way. There is a strategy called a Qualified Charitable Distribution that lets you give to your charity straight from your IRA. Satisfy your required minimum distribution and keep that money completely out of your taxable income. We're going to break all of that stuff down today on the Howdy Neighbor Retirement Show.
It's the Howdy Neighbor Retirement Show.
Howdy neighbor, I'm Michael Andrews with Andrews Insurance and Advisory, and you're listening to the Howdy Neighbor Retirement Show, where we tackle real life questions about retirement, Medicare, and Social Security every week. Today we've got a really good question from Dwight, and it's one of those questions where the answer leads to a much bigger conversation that I think a lot of people need to hear. Dwight writes in and says, "Hey Michael, I have a question about modified adjusted gross income. It's qualified charitable donations from an IRA included in that. I would prefer not to trigger a large IRMA surcharge." Dwight, thank you so much for sending that in. It's a great question. And the short answer to that is no. A qualified charitable distribution is not included in your modified adjusted gross income. When it's done correctly, it comes straight out of your IRA, goes directly to your charity, and never shows up in your taxable income at all. So does it push up your MAGI? No, it doesn't, and it doesn't trigger an IRMA surcharge. That is actually one of the best things about this strategy, and I want to spend some time today explaining exactly how it works and why more people should be using it. So first, let's talk about what a QCD actually is. A qualified charitable distribution is when you take money directly out of an IRA, send it straight to a qualified charity. The key word there is directly. The money cannot come to you first. It cannot land in your bank account, and then you go and write a check to the church or whatever charity is that you want to donate this to. This stuff has to go directly from the IRA to the charity. If you take the money out yourself and then donate it, that is just a regular IRA withdrawal, and the full amount is going to show up as taxable income. That is not a QCD, and it does not get you the same tax treatment. Now, to use a QCD, you have to be at least 70 and a half years old. That is the IRS rule on this. It's weird, but they have a lot of weird rules. And there's actually an annual limit on how much you can move out this way, and the limit has been indexed for inflation in recent years, so the number adjusts. But the bigger point is this: for most people who are charitably inclined, there is plenty of room to make meaningful gifts and still stay within the limit. Now, here's where things get really powerful, especially for people who are at the age where required minimum distributions have kicked in. As most of you probably know, once you hit a certain age, the IRS decides that they want to start getting their tax money out of your traditional IRA every year. Those withdrawals count as taxable income, and for a lot of people, those RMDs can push them into a higher tax bracket, make more of their Social Security taxable, and even push them over the IRMA threshold that Dwight was asking about earlier. So here's the thing about a QCD. It counts towards satisfying your required minimum distribution for the year. So instead of taking an RMD, paying taxes on it, and then maybe turning around and writing a check to your church or your favorite charity anyway, you can just send that money directly from the IRA to the charity. In that case, you have satisfied your RMD. You've made your donation, and that amount never shows up in your income at all. It's one of the rare situations where you can actually reduce the taxable portion of your IRA withdrawal to zero. And that is not something that you get very many opportunities to do. And Dwight, getting back to your specific concern, this is where the IRMA piece really matters. As we've talked about before on this show, IRMA is the extra Medicare surcharge that higher income people pay on their Part B and Part D premiums. It's based on your income from 2 years ago. So if your income spikes in a given year because of a large IRA withdrawal or an RMD, that can follow you into your Medicare premiums 2 years down the road. But because a QCD is not included in your MAGI, it does not create that problem. You are satisfying the RMD, you're making the gift, and you're keeping your income number cleaner. That is a really meaningful benefit for a lot of retirees. Now, there are a couple rules that I want to make sure that you know. First, the charity has to be a qualified 501c3 organization. So you cannot donate to the George Costanza Human Fund. So it's got to be something that's qualified. Also, donor-advised funds do not qualify. Private foundations generally do not qualify. It needs to be a direct gift to a recognized charitable organization. Secondly, it can only come from an IRA. You cannot do a QCD directly from a 401k or a 403b. If your money is still sitting in an old employer plan, ideally, you need to roll that money over into an IRA first. And again, the money has to go directly from that IRA custodian to the charity. Make sure that your IRA provider knows what you're doing, because they handle the paperwork, and how the check is written really matters. And one more thing worth mentioning is that a lot of people think, well, can't I just donate money and take a deduction on my taxes anyway? And yes, technically you can, but if you are like most people, then you are taking what's called the standard deduction these days. So if you are not itemizing, that charitable deduction is not actually doing anything for you. A QCD skips all of that. You are not deducting the donation. Instead, you're just never reporting the income in the first place, which for most retirees is a much better outcome. So, Dwight, to bring this all the way back to your question, QCDs are not included in your modified adjusted gross income. They do not trigger IRMA. They count toward your RMD, and for people who are charitably inclined and dealing with required minimum distributions, this may be one of the best tools available to manage your tax situation into retirement. So today we talked about what a qualified charitable distribution is, how it works, why the money has to go directly from the IRA to the charity, how it satisfies your RMD without adding to your taxable income, and why it can be such an effective tool for keeping your MAGI in check and avoiding IRMA surcharges. Dwight, thank you again for sending that in. It is a great question, and I hope this gives you and a lot of other people out there a clear picture of how to use this strategy. So if you've got a question that you would like for me to tackle on the show, go ahead and shoot me an email to michael@andrewsadv.com. I read every one of them, and I might just answer yours on a future episode. Hey, you've worked hard to build your retirement. You don't have to make these decisions alone. If you want a second opinion for your retirement plan, I'm here to help you. It doesn't cost anything for me to take a look, but not letting me, it could cost you thousands. So if you're ready to take this relationship to the next level, call or text me at 918-842-7379 or schedule a time on my calendar at andrewsadv.com. And wherever you're listening, whether that be radio, YouTube, or Facebook, make for sure that you subscribe and follow the Howdy Neighbor Retirement Show so you don't miss next week's episode. If this helped, give it a like and share it with a friend who could use some good neighborly retirement advice. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week right here on the Howdy Neighbor Retirement Show. Thanks.
It's the Howdy Neighbor Retirement Show, helping you plan so your money will grow.